One of the main genres Nintendo has been criticized for lacking on their Wii U console is the shooter genre. The Xbox 360 had a good number of them along with the PS3, to the point where the Xbox 360 gained a stereotype as a console with only shooters, especially if one glanced over the most popular games on that console. And it also helped how the Xbox 360 had the successful Halo franchise. The Wii U, on the other hand, has only a handful of shooters, with the most popular series, Call of Duty, not releasing games on the Wii U anymore. After Call of Duty Ghosts, for various reasons such as a low player count and poor sales, along with Nintendo's decisions with the console itself, the series has not seen a Wii U release, and Advanced Warfare is not on the console. And due to this, the Wii U has been lacking in shooters, along with the fact that third parties have dumped the Wii U in general. However, now Nintendo has released their first multiplayer shooter developed in-house, Splatoon. Developed by the same Nintendo studio known for games such as Wii Sports, Wii Play, Wii Music, Star Fox Command, and recent entries in the Animal Crossing series. Instead of targeting older players with a sci-fi, military, or similar theme, Splatoon tries to target kids with a very generic and bland theme, along with gameplay that feels more like the unzip key from Postal 2 than any other shooter game. It also lacks many crucial features that are essential requirements in this genre as well, but considering the amount of hype from people online who spend more time drawing fan art and spewing memes than talking about the gameplay itself, it's going to be game changing, right? So let's take a look at Splatoon. Now, before this video begins, I might as well give you a content warning. I will be comparing this to other shooters because in many ways it is clear that Splatoon wants to compete with other shooters, especially when it comes to fan hype online and the people hyping this game up. Since nearly everybody compares Splatoon with Call of Duty, Halo, Battlefield, and nearly every other big shooter, and since I saw quite a few Miiverse posts trashing Call of Duty for the sake of it, I thought I might as well also compare video games. Now, Splatoon is a third-person shooter developed by Nintendo for the Wii U console. The game is also Nintendo's first game to push online multiplayer, and this is reflected in both the marketing campaigns for the game and the game's design, which forces you to go through an unskippable tutorial similar to other multiplayer-only games such as Evolve or Titanfall, except in those games, to my knowledge, you can skip the tutorials, while in this game, they are unskippable, as the first thing you see when you start the game is the tutorials, and you're forced to play through them. And in this tutorial, the game will show you its first main problem, the controls. While most multiplayer games use the tried and true twin analog control scheme you're used to finding in various other multiplayer games on consoles, Splatoon tries to use gyroscope tilt controls, and it's something you would find in a mobile game and not in a home console game. The controls are very awkward, and while some might praise them as being as easy to use as mouse aiming, as a person who has played hours and hours of games on the PC using keyboard and mouse, they come off as very imprecise and hard to use. You can't skip the tutorial or change the controls here either, as hitting every button on the controller does not give you a menu. Unlike the Global Test Fire where you could skip this does not let you skip it. By contrast, in single-player mode, Call of Duty usually starts you off in a training facility where you learn the controls, and Halo does the same thing, except instead it starts you off where you have to do a suit check of your suit because you wear armor in Halo, and you have to check the suit's functionality by moving your analog stick up and down, and this is how the game lets you adjust the aiming settings and learn the basic controls, while Titanfall, during its skippable tutorial, does the same thing. However, once you change the settings, you do get dual analog controls. However, you cannot adjust their sensitivity in-game, and you must do this by jumping in and out of the scouting area, which allows you to also test fire weapons. To compensate for the dual analog controls being more accurate, however, the crosshair moves up and down when you use dual analog controls, while in every other shooter, it stays in the middle of the screen, and for a good reason. It allows you to see exactly where you are shooting the projectile at. While Splatoon can make it confusing at times, as the aiming feels a little off. There is also only one button layout, so if you wanted to change it to something else, then tough. You must play the game exactly the way Nintendo wants to. On the other hand, Call of Duty on the Wii U gives you a variety of button choices, including the same button mappings as the Xbox and PlayStation versions. It makes me wonder a little if they deliberately crippled the controls to try to equalize them, kind of like what they did with Shadowrun on the Xbox 360 and PC, where mouse controls and higher sensitivity control options had an expanding crosshair. But yet other shooters allow you to customize the control schemes, even if you only get a few preset configurations. For example, Call of Duty allows you to turn on and off aim assist, while Call of Duty also lets you select from a wide variety of popular control schemes. And not just the default one, I mean ones such as Legacy, which emulates control schemes used in older console shooters such as GoldenEye, and Southpaw, which moves the analog sticks around. And there are even some games that let you customize every single control out of the box. So after the tutorial, the game really pushes multiplayer. It shows you shops you can buy gear at, the area you can use to go online in battle, and which multiplayer maps are currently in the rotation right now, and I'll get to that in a second. However, single player, on the other hand, is buried in a corner. Compared to other Nintendo games, where single player and offline modes are usually front and center, even in series known for online such as Smash Bros. Or Pokemon, which have become more and more online centric lately. Instead, you're dumped into a city area which runs at 30 frames per second, and you can either buy gear for your character, which you have to unlock of course, or you can read deep and intelligent Miiverse posts made by very, very exceptional individuals. You can read SpongeBob jokes, various unfunny memes, view fan art drawn on the Wii U gamepad, and even see people talk or joke, you can't tell anymore because of Poe's Law, about how they told their parents that they were into squids. Sometimes you have to wonder where Chris Hansen is when you need him the most. This is also the only place in the entire game you can communicate, as there is no such thing as voice chat, universal messaging, party chat, and more features you could get as standard, even on the old aging Xbox 360, or even certain Wii U games that implement some of these features in the game itself, such as Call of Duty Black Ops 2. There is only a recent players option, and messaging on the Wii U is restricted to Miiverse or in games that implement them in-game messages, which this game does not implement. This game also lacks many features that affect the game at having any sort of chance at having a competitive scene, such as map voting, clans, private matches, or changing your loadout in-game. While Call of Duty, for example, lets you modify classes in between games and choose them in-game, with Battlefield going a step further and actually letting you modify them during a game, Splatoon only lets you do it after backing out of a lobby. And once the game hits 8 players, it starts without telling you who's on what team. Call of Duty, on the other hand, allows you to choose which map you want, and it also allows you to vote random, which picks a random map if you don't want either map that's up for voting. And of course, when the game's about to start, it also sorts out the teams, so you can see who is on what team. And Splatoon, on the other hand, doesn't do either of these, which Call of Duty does automatically and has done for quite a few installments. Splatoon, on the other hand, does not do this, and it's just one of the many basic features that this game does not do. Let's not forget, no voice chat whatsoever, not in the lobby, not in the game. No voice chat whatsoever. There are, however, generic voice commands. However, unlike games such as Battlefield 4, which allow you to say things that are related to the game and team play, Splatoon only gives you 2 options that have little to do with team play whatsoever. I mean, only having 2 options, Command and Booyah, is not enough for a game that wants to take itself seriously as a team-based game. And it's clear that this game is more of a game for kids than it is a proper shooter game. Usernames in games are just generic usernames, unlike Call of Duty or other modern console shooters which use your unique Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Network ID. Your Mii's name is your multiplayer ID, and usually it's set to a very generic name. You're likely to run into 4 million generic first names on Splatoon. There's also no scoreboard. The ammo counter is mounted on a tiny spot of the back of your character, which you're unlikely to be looking at very closely, and there's no pause menu that lets you change settings in-game or ping counter. And yet older games such as Halo 3 had these features from day one, such as the scoreboard, the ping counter, the little mini score in the corner, the timer. It had all of these on your screen easily available. For example, the scoreboard, which displays the ping counter and scores from all the team, which helps you look at the objective, see the score for it, and it displays the individual score for each team member. Splatoon does not have basic features like this, which are essential if the game wants to be taken seriously as a competitive game. Then again, speaking of ping counters and connection quality, the Wii U is also the only modern console to have no Ethernet port whatsoever, requiring you to buy a USB Ethernet adapter to play online with Ethernet and get lower pings online. Now, while the other consoles have it built in on the motherboard in the console, the Wii U doesn't. So this can translate to poor online quality for other people, and it did give me one error message when I was playing online, as I got an error message about how I couldn't connect to another person, which seems to indicate that the Wii U has lower connection quality than other systems due to the fact that not everybody has an Ethernet port, but on the other consoles everybody does. And if you're going to be making an online game, having an Ethernet port is crucial. The gameplay itself is dull, boring, and practically unchanged from the global test fire. All you do is go around spraying everywhere with paint, trying to prevent the other team from camping your territory as well. At least once I've been spawn camped, and there are broken and unbalanced weapons such as the paint roller, which is more overused than the shotgun is by campers and other shooters. The game itself is very easy, and matches usually end in landslides, indicating that the game might not even have any form of skill-based matchmaking, similar to how the Halo Master Chief Collection currently is, or how Titanfall was when it still had players. Maps are very dull, bland, and generic with little memorable features and a dull art style. Players are capped at 4 versus 4, which means only 8 people can be in the game at once compared to 16 in Halo and 18 in Call of Duty, and games only start when there are 8 people. The game currently only has one playlist. Well, it actually supposedly has 2, ranked and unranked, but the ranked is supposedly coming soon, so you can't play it as of day 1. The game's game modes and maps are picked by the game itself, with everyone playing at them at once in an effort to maintain a concentrated population, and there are only 2 of them at a time that you can play, out of a grand total of 5 maps. That's right, 5 maps in a $60 game. There are also a grand total of 2 game modes in this game, just for comparison's sake. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare comes with 13 maps out of the box, and it also comes with a wide variety of game types, private matches, voice chat, and various game settings you can tweak to your own liking along with various playlists. The price? Also $60. For $60, you're getting more multiplayer content than Splatoon has. Another great $60 shooter that's a better value than Splatoon is Battlefield 4's Premium Edition. I own it, I enjoy it, it's one of my favorite team-based shooters, one of my favorite shooters this gen, and it has voice chat, lets you pay to host your own server with your own rotation and settings, and it includes 30 maps. And even though it only costs $60 for all that stuff, you can also get the standard edition for a lower price. And there's also older games, which I'm not even getting into, that are available for lower prices that have more content than Splatoon does, such as older Call of Duties, older Halos, and of course the Master Chief Collection, which is kind of buggy, and I honestly wouldn't recommend it right now, but it still has more content than Splatoon does. In fact, even some games targeted at the same demographic as this game have features Splatoon doesn't, like Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, which features scoreboards, voice chat, the ability to change your class in-game, and of course it's powered by the same technology as Battlefield 4. However, you do get to unlock stupid customizable gear for your character, and you can even buy some using amiibos, as this game features Day 1 disc-lock content with amiibos. For example, you can tap a certain amiibo to unlock schoolgirl clothes. I mean, I'm not even joking about this. Sometimes it can make you wonder where Chris Hansen is when you need him. The game also features an offline single-player mode, where gameplay feels more like a challenge mode than it does a full-fledged campaign, where you go around in platform-like levels and just shoot stuff. And really, this mode alone might have been an okay $5 Xbox Live Arcade game that would be forgotten about in a week, but this single player mode is nowhere worth the amount of hype this game's getting, because if anything, It feels like a cut-rate, shooter-based clone of the Blob in some parts, and in other parts it feels like one of those challenge modes you'd find in another game where you have so many challenges. That's what this game feels like, to be honest. And really, that's it. There's not much to it, and it's very weak for even a $60 mostly multiplayer-centric game. And here's the thing, the multiplayer is pretty weak in this game too. And this mode feels tacked on to give the few people who don't have internet now, who own a Wii U, something to play. There's no offline, LAN, or bot modes when it comes to the multiplayer component of this game, to my knowledge. I mean, all it has is that Battle Dojo mode, but that's not the same as an offline bot mode, kind of like what Call of Duty and Unreal Tournament have, or how Halo and Call of Duty have 4-player offline split screen along with LAN mode. And of course you can turn on bots in Call of Duty split screen too. Or even other Nintendo games, where Nintendo games are usually known for giving people very strong offline modes. For example, Mario Kart and Smash. And both of those games, when they came out on the Wii U, were being highly praised, and the Wii U was being held up as some system which was reviving offline multiplayer games. Yeah, that is how well known Nintendo's offline multiplayer modes are, and this game lacks them. So even by Nintendo standards, this is weak. Now, the music in this game ranges from meh and forgettable to sounding like you shoved a Q-tip too far down your ear by accident while trying to clean it. It's not really worth talking about, other than the fact that it can sound really annoying at various times. The graphics in this game aren't very advanced technically either, looking at an early 360 game at best and running at 720p, mostly 60 frames a second, with no anti-aliasing whatsoever, so you get a nice jagged look that makes it look like you were trying to turn the settings down to run a PC game. Even Call of Duty 4 looks more technically advanced than this game, and that game can run on even a toaster. All in all, this game is a ripoff. For $60, the quality and quantity of the content is minimal. If this game were released on another system without the Nintendo logo in the way it is now, it would possibly be a flop. The problem is, this is being sold to the Nintendo audience, an audience that praises them like a cult. Even in their own games. An audience that has a mental breakdown when someone says the words Call of Duty, and an audience that feels having a few meh games in a year and tons of toys is better than having a year worth of quality games. The game has gotten unrealistic levels of hype, when other games with similar level of quality and content get forgotten about fast. Memes and fan art are being thrown around to the characters and game in insane quantities, with none of the qualities people hype other games for being present. But quite possibly the worst part about this game, it's unfinished. Nintendo released the game unfinished to get it out on time and is planning on patching in features such as more maps, more game modes, and private matches. In essence, the game is a $60 early access game. You're paying $60 for a few maps, a few game modes, and a few features, with some of them coming later on when the population has dipped and the price probably dropped. And you know the worst part about that? Nintendo seems to be getting off with it lighter than any other company that does this. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.
Yes! Yes,